You don't understand anything. Do you still not know why I cheated?
When I confronted him about the affair, my husband pursed his lips, adopting an attitude that seemed to say it's not his fault, but yours. I confronted him, assertively. What do you mean? Are you saying I'm the reason you cheated?
Yeah, that's right. I cheated because you made me feel lonely.
Huh? Are you serious?
Of course. I don't want to hear your excuses. Just get out.
At that moment, the feelings I had built up towards my husband melted away. There was no longer any affection, only a sense of disgust. What did he just say? Cheating because I made him feel lonely? This is ridiculous. I'll make sure to make him suffer, no matter what it takes. Determined to seek revenge, I immediately began preparations. My name is Karen Rivers, and I'm 32 years old. I work for a well-known beverage company. Working for a beverage company involves more than just planning new products. It requires adapting to the changing times, such as modifying labels and container shapes. Especially for beverages featured in commercials, one must come up with memorable catchphrases and label designs. These tasks are quite challenging, and it's common for good ideas not to come easily, even after days of contemplation. Since graduating from college, I have immersed myself in work every day. The monotony of my work routine changed 2 years ago. It all began with meeting my current husband, Taylor. I first met Taylor at a group blind date I was invited to by friends. I was not in the mood for it to begin with, and I was just drinking. But then, he approached me. Would you normally talk to someone who is just sitting in the corner of the table drinking alcohol? He's an unusual person. I was thinking that, but when we started talking, surprisingly, I naturally began to smile. We exchanged contact information, and the following month, as we went out for a meal together. After dating for a year, we started living together with the prospect of marriage. While my job keeps me busy, Taylor's company is small, so there's usually some flexibility in his schedule. That's why, whenever I come home, he's always there, ready and waiting with a meal.
Welcome back, Karen. Dinner is just ready.
You made it for me. Thank you.
Karen, you're busy, so it can't be helped. It's something simple, so cut me some slack.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Thank you so much.
You're contributing a lot to our living expenses, so it's only fair.
We had quite a difference in income, you know. This is because a few years ago, my project was successful, leading to a promotion. When we roughly disclosed our incomes before moving in together, there was about a threefold difference between my salary and Taylor's. So we decided to split the rent, and I covered utilities and groceries. While most of the living expenses fell on me, I didn't mind, because Taylor took the lead in steering our life together. Unlike me, who occasionally faced sudden overtime, Taylor reliably had weekends and holidays off. So on weekdays, he cooks meals and cleans the bath. On his days off, he would thoroughly clean the entire house. I, in turn, sometimes took on household chores to give him a break. In this way, we supported each other, smoothly navigating our cohabitation. Half a year after moving in together, Taylor proposed, and we got married. With the official status of a married couple, we decided to move to a slightly larger apartment. However, a problem arose at this point. There was a significant difference between the property Taylor wanted and the one I had in mind.
Why not choose something in the middle? We're both about halfway between our workplaces.
I showed him the floor plan of a certain property, but Taylor never nodded. Instead, he boldly pointed his smartphone at me and said confidently,
So this place is definitely better. The rooms are spacious, and being on a higher floor is better, right?
You misunderstood even the place I showed you? Isn't it good enough? Taylor, even if we have children someday, your choice is too spacious.
You just don't get it. You can never have too much space. Besides, Karen, you can wake up earlier, right? I'm not a morning person, so I want to live somewhere close to the office.
What's that? It's not all about your convenience.
I do most of the household chores, so it's fine, right? Karen, just focus on your work.
Despite several discussions, my husband didn't budge an inch. Instead, he aggressively pushed his opinions. Since he was unyielding, we eventually moved to the property he suggested. It was a relatively small high-rise apartment, and the room he contracted was on the 7th floor. The rent jumped several times, visibly increasing our expenses. On top of that, he said,
I want to get all new furniture and appliances.
And I ended up buying everything with my own money. Initially, as before, we split the rent, and I covered utilities and groceries. However, around 3 months after the move, my husband's attitude gradually began to change. I'm home. One day when I returned from work, there were cup ramen containers scattered in the living room. Next to them, my husband lay on the sofa, looking at his phone. There was no usual greeting of welcome home. The room was quite messy, and of course, there was no meal prepared. Hey, Taylor, are you tired? When I inquired, he maintained his posture, merely shifting his gaze towards me. A discernible sigh escaped his lips, accompanied by a visibly weary expression on his face.
Can't you see it? I'm tired, so I made such an easy meal, right?
I see. Well, then I'll have cup noodles too.
Huh? I bought that stock myself, you know.
Huh? So am I not allowed to eat it? Even though I cover all the food expenses?
Well, if that's the case, buy it yourself from the convenience store. Cup noodles are cheap with your salary, right?
The somewhat prickly tone of his words caused irritation. Realizing that continuing the conversation would only agitate me further, I opted for the light soup I had purchased as a substitute for dinner. While soaking in the bath that night, a sudden thought crossed my mind. Why did my husband suddenly adopt such an attitude? I wonder what's up with Taylor. Maybe he's really exhausted. Up until now, I had entrusted most household chores to my husband. Though I helped when I could, the burden remained substantial. Several months had passed since that incident, and rather than improving, my husband's demeanor grew colder each day. Recently, he started ignoring me even when I tried to talk to him. A new project had started a little while ago, and I found myself in the busy role of a team leader. My return home was later than usual, and I would often collapse into bed without eating dinner. Lately, my husband stopped preparing meals altogether, and we began fending for ourselves. While I felt a sense of loneliness, for someone with early mornings and late nights like me, it was somewhat easier. Then one day, after a series of overtime shifts, an unusual request came from my boss.
Can you leave on time today?
It's been a while since I've had dinner with my husband. So I went to the supermarket to buy his favorite potato au gratin and roast beef, and bought 2 tarts at a cake shop. However, no matter how long I waited, my husband didn't return. The time was already past 7 p.m. My husband always gets off work on time, so no matter how late he gets off at work, he should be home by 6 p.m. I tried sending a message, but there was no response. Time passed with no indication, not even a red receipt. What's going on with Taylor? Even after 8 p.m., there was no sign of my husband returning. The prepared dishes were nearly cold. Frustrated, I decided to call him. Surprisingly, he answered after a few rings.
What do you want?
Behind his curt words, I heard a small chuckle. A bad feeling hit me, and I immediately pressed him for an explanation. Hey, where are you right now? Are you with someone?
It doesn't matter where I am. You're probably working late too, so what's wrong with having a drink and coming home a bit late?
I'm already home today. I left work on time. I even bought dinner.
I've already eaten, so I don't need it. Bye.
Wait a sec. Despite the conversation being far from over, he unilaterally ended the call. No matter how many times I called back, he didn't respond. My head was filled with discomfort. One thing was certain. My husband was somewhere with someone. Perhaps it was just a colleague, or a friend he hadn't seen in a while. But was this woman's intuition kicking in? I could sense he was hiding something in his tone and demeanor. So I decided to open my husband's room and started searching for something. Found it, the one he always used. This is the tablet my husband usually uses. He recently purchased a new one, so this tablet is not in use right now. If he's cheating, I thought there might be evidence on this device he used until recently. I turned on and charged the tablet. Perhaps because it was replaced with a new one, but the tablet was unlocked, and I was able to open it right away. I went through the apps in it and casually opened the mail folder, where I finally found what I was looking for. I knew it. Taylor was cheating on me. There was an email history of my husband communicating with his affair partner. It seems like he used this tablet because if he exchanged messages on a smartphone app, I would find out. In the folder, there were dozens of messages left every day, and there were even cheerful couple photos sent by the person he was having an affair with. The photo folder had many pictures of the woman who was presumably his affair partner. I went back in the email exchanges, which dated back to about 4 months ago. The change in my husband's attitude began right around that time. It was a mystery why he suddenly became cold to me, but the mystery has finally been solved. Considering the timing, it's probably accurate. In that moment, anger began to shake my body uncontrollably. My hand gripping the tablet tightened as if to say, "Is this not enough?" Unbelievable. To think he was cheating just as his attitude suddenly turned sour. I decided to wait for my husband's return and confront him with the truth. After 11 p.m., my husband finally returned, and I immediately pressed him for answers. Hey, what's going on? Were you cheating?
Huh? What the hell? All of a sudden, you're saying random stuff without any evidence.
I do have evidence. Look. I presented the evidence I found on the tablet to my husband. He seemed surprised for a moment, but then started laughing.
You really don't understand anything. Don't you get why I cheated? It's because you made me lonely.
My husband looks at me like I'm an idiot, his mouth agape. He acted as if it was not his fault and that it was my fault. I forcefully confronted my husband with this. What do you mean? Are you saying it's my fault you cheated?
Yeah, that's right. I cheated because you made me feel lonely.
Huh? Are you seriously saying that?
Obviously. I don't want to hear your excuses. Just get out and stop bothering me.
My husband took out a pre-filled divorce form from his bag, slammed it on the living room table, and had a triumphant smile. In that moment, all the feelings I had built up for my husband quickly faded away. There was no love left, only a strong sense of disgust. What did he just say? I cheated because you made me feel lonely? This is ridiculous. No matter what it takes, I'll make sure he pays for this. With revenge on my mind, I turned to my husband and told him in no uncertain terms. I understand. Then I'll just take my personal belongings and leave.
Fine. Do as you please. With this, I can finally live with my girlfriend.
In return, give me just 1 week. I need to find a new place.
Whatever. I'll stay at my girlfriend's place for about a week, so make sure you're out by then.
My husband left our home with the bare minimum of belongings. I, on the other hand, also immediately began preparing. Of course, it's not just about moving. I decided to take everything in this house. meaning all the furniture and appliances I purchased with me. On that day, I packed up some of my belongings, and the next day I contacted the moving company. After signing a contract for a monthly apartment for temporary stay, I left home. 2 days had passed since I moved into the monthly apartment. We had already submitted the divorce papers, and we were complete strangers now. On this day, as I was having dinner alone, my phone rang. I had anticipated it, and as expected, it was a call from my ex-husband. "Hello," he exclaimed as soon as I answered.
Hey, what the hell are you doing?
"What's wrong? Why are you so worked up?"
Don't play dumb. Inside the house, why is there nothing left?
Huh? And didn't I say it? I'm taking my personal belongings with me. All the furniture and appliances in that house were purchased by me, right? So, is there a problem with me taking them with me?
What? What the hell is that? Since you're the one leaving, it's normal to leave that kind of stuff behind, right? What do you think I invited her for?
He probably intended to show off in front of his girlfriend. However, the house was now practically empty. Just imagining his face at that moment made me want to burst into laughter. Despite my desperate effort to hold back laughter, Taylor continued.
Hey, you hear me? Just give it back. That's mine.
Give it back? After receiving living expenses from someone and even cheating, how can you say such a thing? I'll let you know. I'll definitely claim alimony as my rightful compensation.
What? Alimony? Why would I cheated because it's your fault.
My fault? Made you feel lonely? Don't be ridiculous. We got married knowing my job was busy. In my own way, I valued our time together as a couple. You're the one who betrayed that, no one else. When I made that accusation, Taylor stumbled over his words, realizing that continuing further was a waste of time. As if to clear away all the resentment built up until then, I unequivocally declared, "Do you understand? This situation is entirely because of your actions. I don't want to hear complaints from a man who cheats. Don't ever involve yourself with me again. You and your affair partner can go to hell together for all I care."
Karen, wait,
Without waiting for his response, I hung up and erased his contact information. It was the moment when the grudge within me finally disappeared. Afterward, I consulted a lawyer and claimed from my ex-husband and his affair partner. The affair partner apparently promptly paid me in a lump sum, and then smoothly parted ways with Taylor. As a result, my husband became emotionally and mentally unstable. What befell him in the aftermath was a demand for rent payment. Oh, that high-rise apartment. Taylor insisted on putting everything in his name, saying he wanted to be a supportive husband. In other words, all bills are addressed to him. Up until now, the rent has been split 50-50, but from now on, he will have to pay all rent and utilities. He can't possibly afford the rent for that house with his limited income. Of course, given the circumstances of the divorce, he can't expect any support from his parents either. With no other options, Taylor moved to a small apartment and now seems to be making ends meet with a part-time job. On the other hand, as for me, I've successfully rented a new place near the company, and the moving process is completed. The shorter commute has given me more free time in the mornings and evenings, and I'm able to spend my time more meaningfully. Although my marriage ended in failure, I have no regrets. My career has been successful enough. I hope to continue enriching my life and strive for self-improvement every day. Today is my beloved husband's birthday. I secretly took the afternoon off to pick up his favorite cake from the bakery. We've both been so busy lately that we haven't had much time together as a couple. My husband doesn't really care much about his own birthday, but I think these moments are important. After picking up the cake, I stopped by the grocery store to buy ingredients for dinner, imagining his surprised face as I happily made my way home. But the moment I opened the front door, my mind went blank. What? What's going on? There was a pair of unfamiliar pink pumps in the entryway. As I stood frozen, I heard a sweet, unfamiliar female voice overlapping my husband's voice from inside the room. I couldn't believe this was happening, but I couldn't just ignore it. I decided then and there to get revenge. Hello? I took out my phone and dialed a certain number. My name is Maggie. I'm 32 years old. I've been working at a cafe I've known since my student days, where I'm now the assistant manager. The current manager is transferring to another branch, and I've just been selected as a candidate for the manager position. It's my first time in such a role, and I'm a bit nervous, but I have a reason to give it my all. My husband. I married Victor 3 years ago. He's kind to everyone, always respects my opinions, and that's why I fell for him. He's just as kind as when we first started dating. Just the other day, when I told him I was a candidate for manager, he was thrilled.
What? That's amazing.
Well, I was acting as the manager when our manager was helping at another store, so...
Even so, it means you're recognized as capable of being a manager. That's really incredible. Managing a whole store?
Victor, you're exaggerating, but I'm really happy you say that. I'll do my best.
If you're moving up, I need to step it up too. I need to work hard so we can buy our own house soon.
Yeah, that's right. Those moments of laughing together are when I feel happiest. I was determined to work harder for his sake. One day, I came home from work to find Victor not there. Usually, I get home later than him, since he works closer to home. There was no message from him on my phone. He usually lets me know if he's working overtime. But there was nothing today. What happened to him? Did something happen? I wondered as I sent him a message. But it went unread, and time just passed. Usually he replies even when he's working late. Why not today? Could something have happened on his way home? But I would have heard from the police or hospital if there was an accident. I let my imagination run wild and became needlessly anxious. All I could do was clutch my phone and pray for his safety. Several hours later, after 11 p.m., I finally heard the front door open. I immediately got up and hurried to the entrance. Victor! Welcome home. I'm so glad you're okay. As I rushed to him, half in tears, he momentarily grimaced, but then quickly returned to his usual gentle smile and patted my head.
Sorry I'm late. Some last-minute work came up.
So, it was overtime? But you usually reply. What happened? I was really worried about you.
Sorry about that. I was so busy today, I didn't even have a moment to check my phone.
It must have been tough. Why don't you go take a bath? It's ready.
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Maggie,
he said, embracing me gently. That's when I noticed a faint, sweet scent coming from him. Shocked, I just stood there frozen. He went to the bath without noticing my reaction. Left alone, I walked shakily to the sofa, sat down, and tried to make sense of things. That smell was definitely perfume. But he doesn't wear perfume, and I've never even bought any. So where did that scent on him come from? Driven by concern, I decided to ask him directly. As soon as he came out of the bath, I broached the topic. Hey, Victor, sorry to bother you when you're tired, but I need to ask you something.
What's up?
Well, I felt guilty as I looked at his kind face. Should I really be asking this? Despite my internal struggle, I decided to share my doubts. When you hugged me earlier, I noticed a really nice smell on you. It was sweet. You were at the office all day, right?
Yeah. I was at the office. Maybe the smell is from the female stuff? It could have transferred to me.
But I've never noticed it before. If it was from a colleague, I would have smelled it on you before.
It was just a coincidence today. Sorry if it made you feel bad. I'll be more careful next time.
Okay. He looked somewhat stiff as he shifted his gaze to his phone. His answer wasn't what I was looking for, but I couldn't push any further. From that day, I started to feel uneasy about his behavior. His occasional overtime became almost daily, and he would return home around midnight. Plus, he started going out with colleagues on weekends. Just last weekend, he said he was going on a trip with a coworker and left early without telling me where. He didn't bring back any souvenirs or show me any photos from the trip, despite my asking. This all made me start to suspect something was off. Unable to stand it any longer, I decided to check on him at his office. I left work earlier than usual, saying I had an errand, and headed to his office. I sat on a nearby bench and waited for him to come out. After about 15 minutes, I saw him leave the office. So it wasn't overtime after all. Is he meeting someone? I discreetly followed him, but he just walked towards the station. He didn't seem to be meeting anyone there either. Am I just being paranoid? Just as I was overwhelmed with guilt, I hurried over to him. Victor!
Maggie? What are you doing here? What about work?
Sorry, Victor. I actually doubted you. Holding back tears, I explained why I was there. He listened in silence, then sighed softly.
You worry too much, Maggie. Why would I cheat you? I'm married to you.
I know. Sorry. But you've been coming home late and spending weekends away. That's why I got anxious.
Sorry for making you feel that way. There's no way I would get involved with someone else while I'm married.
Yeah, you're right. I'm really sorry for doubting you.
It's okay. Anyway, let's go home now. How about we grab dinner somewhere?
Let's do that. I was thrilled about dining out with my husband after such a long time. All my worries and negative thoughts just melted away. I was convinced he hadn't betrayed me. But at that moment, I was oblivious to where he had really been planning to go that day. 2 weeks later, it was Victor's birthday. I had told him I would be a bit late from work, but planned a birthday party. In reality, I had taken the afternoon off to prepare for it. I usually don't take many days off, so my request was easily approved. After finishing my morning duties, I left work with a spring in my step to pick up the cake I had reserved at his favorite bakery. We had both been busy lately and hadn't spent much time together. He himself didn't seem too interested in his birthday, but I thought these moments were important. After picking up the cake, I stopped by the grocery store to buy ingredients for dinner, happily picturing his surprised face as I headed home. But the moment I opened the front door, My world turned upside down. What? What's going on? There were unfamiliar pink pumps in the entryway. As I stood frozen, I heard voices from the bedroom.
Are you sure this is okay? Isn't your wife at work?
It's fine. She won't be back till tonight.
But are you sure she hasn't found out? Didn't you run into her at the station the other day?
Yeah, that was a close call. I just said I got off work early and went to eat. But sorry I couldn't see you that day.
It's okay. It would be worse if we got caught and I couldn't be with you anymore.
You're so cute when you say that.
His voice overlapped with that of the unfamiliar woman. They were in the bedroom, embracing each other. I was so shocked that I couldn't even cry. Without realizing it, I started recording their conversation on my phone, capturing the proof of their affair. I couldn't believe this was happening, but I couldn't ignore it. I had to get my revenge. This was my only chance. I took out my phone and called a certain number. Hello? Is this Lance? It's been a while. This is Maggie. I called Victor's father, Lance, not explaining the situation but asking him and his wife to come over immediately. He sensed the urgency and said he'd be right over. It's only a 15-minute drive from their house to ours. After hanging up, I called another number. Hello? Is this the police? There's a stranger in my house. Can you come right away? Yes, I called the police. After giving them my address, they said they would be right over. Waiting at the front door, the police and my in-laws arrived almost simultaneously. I followed them, walking behind everyone. We tiptoed to the bedroom door. I said, "That's the room," and the officer opened the door with force.
Police? What?
The officer was surprised to see Victor and his mistress. My in-laws were completely frozen. But my husband and the mistress were the most panicked. She tried to hide under the covers, while he turned pale and looked around frantically.
Maggie? What the hell?
What do you mean? I came home and heard a stranger's voice. So I called the police.
Why did you have to call my parents too? You're crazy.
Who's crazy here? Taking advantage of the fact I wouldn't be home at night to bring your affair partner into our house?
What? Why are you home at this time? You're usually later.
It's your birthday. I thought I'd surprise you by coming home early. And this is what I find? He wanted to say something, but eventually fell silent. The officer, having heard the conversation, turned to me.
So, what should we do about this woman? We can take her to the station for questioning.
Please do. Take her right away.
Yes, ma'am.
I yanked the woman out of bed, threw her clothes at her, and handed her over to the officer. The police escorted her out, leaving my in-laws and us in the house. Victor attempted to sneak back under the covers, but his father sharply reprimanded him.
What the hell are you doing, Victor? With another woman? In your own house? Despite being married? It's not what it looks like, Dad. It's a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? We saw it with our own eyes. What a fool you are. I'm sorry, okay? She was just a fling. I never intended to divorce Maggie. You think Maggie would want to stay with you? After this? We no longer consider you our son. What? Dad, I'm your son. Are you going to abandon me? Shut up. You're disowned. Don't ever cross our doorstep again.
After saying this, my father-in-law sincerely apologized to me. It wasn't their fault. The blame lay solely with Victor and his mistress. Victor still didn't seem to grasp the situation. He hastily dressed, then turned to me with a forced smile.
Maggie, I'm sorry, okay? But you're the only one I love.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
Of course. I only love you. She was just a fling, so there's no need for a divorce.
Ignoring that his parents were there, I grabbed Victor by the collar and raised my voice. Cut the crap! You love me? She's just a fling? You have no idea how much you've hurt me. Finding out about your affair on your birthday? There's nothing worse. You made me feel miserable, and you're going to take full responsibility for that.
Don't be so mad. I won't see her again. I'll delete her number.
Do whatever you want. I won't see you again, and I'll delete your number too.
Wait, you're joking, right? We're married, are we?
Do you think I'm joking? I have no intention of continuing a relationship with a scumbag like you. I'd rather live alone than continue being married to you. Don't ever interfere in my life. Again. His face turned pale, and tears filled his eyes. He called my name several times, but I ignored him and left the room. Later, I packed my things and moved back to my parents' house. After settling down, I consulted a lawyer and filed for alimony from Victor and his mistress. The divorce proceedings are also underway. The recorded evidence and the fact that my in-laws witnessed the affair are working in my favor. The lawyer is skilled, so it's only a matter of time before the divorce is finalized. Surprisingly, it turned out that his mistress was also married. She and Victor are facing a lot of trouble, being sued for alimony by her husband. Their relationship soured due to the alimony issues. They argue constantly and are unlikely to end up together even after my divorce is finalized. I informed Victor's company about the divorce and its reasons, so he's lost his standing and is facing a possible transfer to a regional branch. All I can say is they got what they deserved. As for me, after staying with my parents for about a month, I rented a house near my workplace. I've officially become the manager, and I'm living fulfilling days. Though it ended in divorce, I have no regrets. What matters most is how I live my life happily from here on out.
Actually, I've decided to go on a trip to Hawaii starting now.
I received a call from my husband, who betrayed me and continued to extort money from me. I haven't heard anything about Hawaii. My husband responds to this with a smile on his face.
Well, you didn't say anything. Even I need to take a break once in a while, you know. So I decided to unwind in Hawaii.
Huh? What about the money?
I borrowed your credit card. I'll be living it up, so take care of the payments.
I hurriedly checked my wallet. Certainly, my credit card was missing. Hey, what do you mean taking my card without permission?
Don't be stingy. Your earnings are mine, and what's mine is mine, right? So I have the right to use it too.
Who does he think he is? Some cartoon character? My husband spun arguments that make me want to say just that. When I firmly refused, he responded with a
Well, if that's how it is.
And the call from him ended. Finally, I began to take action. As a result, my foolish husband is about to experience hell. My name is Grace. I'm a 31-year-old housewife. To be honest, my family is well off. My father runs a company, and my mother is a full-time housewife, and I hold a managerial position at my father's company. To avoid the appearance of nepotism, I took all required exams and presented myself as an unrelated individual with the same surname as the president. Of course, I earned it through both caution and competence. In my early years, my father showered me with affection and generously funded my education. However, upon graduating from college, he pushed me to stand on my own. Initially, he even told me to apply to a different company. Still, as I admired my father's work, I pleaded with him to let me join his company. He reluctantly agreed, promising not to engage in favoritism. Given such circumstances, I moved out of my family home a long time ago and have been living on my own. Motivated via a desire to repay my father, I dedicated myself to work for several years. I found myself in my late 20s without a boyfriend. Whenever I returned home, my mother would express concern, saying,
Hey, Grace, it's great that you're working hard, but you should start thinking about your own happiness soon.
I'm happy right now with my job.
It's not about that. Haven't you thought about marriage? Should I help find someone for you?
Mom, why are you so obsessed with marriage?
Your dad is quite old-fashioned. If he insists on someone taking over the company, I think it would be better if it were your future husband and not you. We would feel more at ease if you married a wonderful person.
While I was slightly shocked by my mother's words, I found myself agreeing. Certainly, my father had never explicitly said, take over the company. It was likely because he naturally assumed it would be a man who would inherit. My father had some old-fashioned beliefs, for sure. Afterward, I decided to find a marriage partner on my own. Despite my mother recommending several arranged meetings, I wanted to choose my life partner myself. I rushed into participating in speed dating events. Even after dating various people, none seemed to click with me. It was during those times that I encountered the man who would later become my husband, Greg Turner. Greg works as a salaried employee in a top-tier company in the same industry as my father. With a gentle smile, he was quite popular at matchmaking events. Greg invited me on a date, and for a year our relationship had no issues. He always paid for our dates and escorted me gracefully. When he proposed, I hesitantly shared the situation at home. Greg, my father is actually the president of a company called T-Corp.
Huh? T-Corp? Isn't that a famous company in our industry?
Yeah, and since I'm the only daughter, I was hoping you'd consider it. Greg took a moment to think before responding.
Got it. Let's hear what my mom thinks first.
Greg's father died when he was in middle school, and he was raised by his mother by herself. We headed to his family's house together and met his mother.
Welcome. I've been looking forward to meeting you.
His mother, a stylish and lively woman, greeted us. As expected, she was a career woman overseeing a fashion company. When we told her about our marriage plans and that we wanted him to inherit the company, she smiled and said, That's fine. Our family isn't the kind that needs someone to inherit. If you two are happy, that's what matters the most. Thank you so much, Mom. And so the marriage introduction with his mother was concluded. By that time, I had grown to really like my mother-in-law. Your mom is such a wonderful person. She exudes this modern, career-oriented woman vibe, and I find it admirable.
Is that so? When she gets mad, she's terrifying. I can't stand up to her.
I couldn't help but laugh at Greg, who shrugged his shoulders. Afterward, it was time to visit my parents' house. When Greg informed them of our intentions, my father and mother were more delighted than I had imagined.
Grace, you've brought an amazing person. We bless your happiness. That's great, Grace. Greg, take care of our daughter, okay?
Greg stood tall and responded warmly to my parents in a refreshing manner. Later, we got married and started living together. My parents gave us a new apartment as a wedding gift. The The house was registered under my name. Living in a beautiful city apartment, we thought we'd both work hard and collaborate on household chores. I believed in such an ideal newlywed life. However, that ideal was quickly shattered. Greg unexpectedly quit his job just 1 month after we got married. What do you mean? Quitting your job?
Come on, Grace. You're getting a decent salary, and eventually you'll inherit T Corp, right? I was thinking of being a house husband until then.
What are you talking about? I don't have any support from my parents. I can't rely on that.
With your salary, we'll be fine. Let me take it easy.
Despite repeatedly pleading with him to find a job, Greg didn't take it seriously. Instead, he started to resist, saying,
I came as their son-in-law, and this is how you treat me?
Having felt the need to compromise with such a husband, I asked him to at least take care of the household chores properly.
Leave it to me. Since I'm a house husband, I'll handle the housework.
Even though Greg said that, his household chores were incredibly sloppy. The rooms were messy, laundry was scattered around, and dinner consisted of supermarket ready-made dishes. In the end, I had to redo everything. One day, unable to endure it any longer, I said, Greg, you're not doing any of the housework properly. I want you to be a bit more responsible.
What? I'm doing my best. What's with that attitude?
But
seriously, that's what you call having some moral standards. Is it fun for you to blame a vulnerable house husband like me?
Faced with Greg's complaints, I could only sigh. I worked while giving Greg the living expenses, and he handled the household tasks carelessly. This lifestyle continued for a whole year. Around the 1-year mark of our marriage, Greg started asking me for money.
Hey, Grace, I'm running short on living expenses.
Huh? Already? I just gave you some not long ago.
Well, it's not enough. Can't help it, right?
Each time, I reluctantly handed him a few more dollars. Greg even asked me to get a credit card for him, but I refused. With his spending habits, it was unpredictable. Greg, what on earth are you spending so much on? This is going to put us in the red. I was quite worried. During that time, I had to plan a company trip, so I went to a travel agency alone. I was having a meeting in a booth surrounded by walls when I overheard a conversation in the next booth.
Hey, where are we going? The Bahamas?
Anywhere with you is fun. But isn't Hawaii better than the Bahamas?
I could hear snippets of the couple's conversation. The voice of that man was unmistakably familiar. It was the exact voice of my husband, Greg. I interrupted the meeting, peeked out from behind the wall, and confirmed it. There he was, Greg, with a smug smile, arm in arm with a woman I didn't recognize, selecting brochures for their trip. At that moment, I understood everything. The reason he became cold towards me and frequently asked for money was because he was having an affair with that woman. I won't forgive him for making a fool out of me. While my head felt like it was boiling, I returned to the meeting booth. The scene I witnessed a moment ago kept swirling in my mind. After that, I took action and asked a private investigator to look into Greg. In just 1 week, substantial evidence of his affair had been gathered. It turned out he was meeting that woman almost every day while I was at work. The woman's name was Heather. Apparently, she worked at night. As I was grappling with the results of the investigation, my phone rang. The caller was Greg. Hello?
Oh, Grace. Working hard, huh?
Greg spoke arrogantly. So what? What do you want?
Hey, can you guess where I am right now?
An airport announcement could be heard in the background. The airport?
Ding dong! Actually, I've decided to go on a trip to Hawaii now.
Greg casually mentioned such a thing. In my mind, the image of the two choosing a travel brochure at the booth came back. I tried to stay as calm as possible. Hawaii? I never heard about that.
Well, you didn't say anything. As a full-time house husband, I need to relax sometimes, right? so I decided to stretch my wings in Hawaii.
Huh? What about the money?
I borrowed your credit card. We'll share the expenses, but you'll take care of the payment, okay?
I hurriedly checked my wallet. Indeed, my credit card was missing. Hey, what's the idea with taking my credit card without permission?
Don't be stingy. Your earnings are mine. And what's mine is mine, right? So, I have the right to use it.
Who does he think he is? Some cartoon character? My husband spun arguments that make me want to say just that. When I firmly refused, he responded with a,
"Well, if that's how it is."
And the call from him ended. The phone call gave the impression that he was going alone, but there was no doubt he was with his affair partner, Heather. Attempting to use my card for their affair? What audacity. I wonder if they're having a good laugh right now. Even though he was my husband, I was utterly disgusted. I must teach him a lesson. I regained my composure and took action. Timing their arrival in Hawaii, I called the company, reported my credit card as stolen, and had it cancelled. After a while, Greg called me, but I ignored it. 5 days later, when I was at home, Greg returned in a tattered state. His hair was sticky, his face showed signs of fatigue, and he looked as if he hadn't taken a bath. Perhaps sunburned. In such a state, Greg confronted me.
"Hey, my credit card didn't work there. What's going on?"
Huh? I cancelled it.
"You canceled it? Why the hell would you do that? I told you I was going to Hawaii, didn't I?"
If the card is stolen, cancelling it is only natural. Greg became furious at my nonchalant response.
"Because of you, I couldn't even stay in a hotel and had to sleep rough in Hawaii. I hardly had any cash, so I survived on just 2 pieces of bread for 3 days. I thought I was going to die."
So how did you make it back?
"All I had was a plane ticket. I got tangled up with the local punks and it was a real mess. How are you going to make up for this?"
Oh, it sounds like you had a fun Hawaii trip. As I calmly remarked, Greg glared at me.
"But seriously, you didn't have to go this far, did you? My life was really in danger. I feel like suing you."
It's me who should be suing.
"Huh?"
At that moment, I threw several photos on the floor. Those photos clearly showed evidence of Greg's affair. Intimate moments, entering a hotel, and even a snapshot of them holding a large travel bag at the airport. Seeing those pictures, Greg's face turned pale.
"What is this? Did you know about it?"
Yes, I've been asking the detective agency for a while now. You were planning to use my card for your affair, weren't you? Facing Greg, who turned pale and stuttered, I continued calmly. You'll compensate me for the affair and the money you embezzled, of course. And of course, we're getting a divorce.
"Huh? Divorce? Are you kidding me? Divorce over something like this?"
Just as Greg uttered those words, a woman's voice echoed in the room.
You're the one kidding around.
Upon confirming the source of the voice, Greg's legs gave out.
Mom, why are you here?"
Yes, I had summoned his mother to this place. I explained his behavior and lifestyle, showed evidence of his affair, and had his mother waiting in the next room. His mother approached him with determination and delivered a powerful slap. Smack! A loud sound echoed in the room.
"What the hell, Mom? What are you doing?"
What about you? I didn't even know you quit your job. Not only did you become unemployed and rely on Grace, but you also stole her credit card for a cheating trip. What on earth were you thinking?
Well...
The only thing you can do is to sincerely apologize to Grace and accept her demands. Come on, sit down.
Greg's mom grabbed his head and forced him to sit on the floor. He told me in a trembling voice as he shrank back from such a mother.
"Grace, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault."
That's right. There's no denying that.
At that moment, Greg lifted his head.
"But please, don't just divorce me. I don't want to lose this life, my position as president of T Corp. or anything else. I'll be a good husband from now on, so please let this incident slide.
His mother, without a moment's hesitation, forcefully slapped Greg's head. Seeing him like that, I shouted loudly, "Who's going to forgive you, you jerk? I'm definitely divorcing you. Pay the alimony quickly and disappear, you worthless man. The rest is up to hell to decide."
No way.
Greg cried out in tears and was dragged away by his mother by the scruff of his neck. Later on, the divorce between Greg and me somehow went through. He was ordered by his mother to pay alimony, and the amount he misappropriated totaling $60,000. I also demanded alimony from his cheating partner. She initially claimed she couldn't pay, but when I threatened to take legal action, she borrowed money and paid up. This apparently triggered a breakup between Greg and her. Having depleted his savings due to payments to me, Greg tried to return to his parents' house, but his mother refused. She had completely severed ties with Greg. Now homeless, he reportedly moved into a rundown apartment and is currently job hunting. Even upon hearing this, I feel no sympathy whatsoever. I can only think, serves you right. On the other hand, I am working hard while living alone. Recently, my father told me,
"You are more capable than I thought. I hope you take over the company in the future."
Those words were more than joyful for me. Currently, I have revealed my identity within the company, and I'm undergoing training under my father as a successor. I would like to continue to make my life brighter by never ceasing my efforts.